Hello, welcome back. I am so excited to be dropping on in again with you. I am Annie. I am your host of the According to Annie podcast. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for taking time out of your day to drop on in and hear the beautiful wisdom that I've got to share with you today. It is a personal one today. I'm sharing with you a little bit about my journey around burnout and how to avoid burnout and 5 signs that you might be in burnout as well. So let's delve into it and just see where you might fall into this category around burnout. I want to talk a little bit around it, just start with around how real it is. I think that, that a lot of people kind of think that it was a bit of a trend there at some stage, like, oh, I'm in burnout, I'm in burnout. And whilst yes, some people might be throwing it around in willy-nilly, but it really is real. And I have definitely been a victim to it. And I think so much of the reason why I hit burnout was a lot of it was actually based on my driving force of being successful in my career. And I've done so much work around all of this, and I don't think at the time I really was aware of what the detriment would be of me wanting to achieve and be a high achiever. And if you're listening to this episode, you also are a high achiever too, because that is just the type of people that I attract into my world. So I am sure that you're going to benefit out of lots of this episode today that I'm going to share with you, because in order for me to get out of burnout, I had to invest 25,000. I didn't have to, but my body was telling me it was time. And so this cost me $25,000 to work with a specialized dietitian who works specifically with entrepreneurs to help them get out of burnout. And I want to take you back to the day where it all happened. And there was probably lots of signs leading up to coming into burnout, but I was choosing to ignore them, or I was just too busy to even worry about them. And we live very much in a society where the hustle culture of just go 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 is very normal. And that's why I want to have this episode today, because most of my audience listening is a woman. And so I think that it's important that we understand that we are not designed to be hustling, to be working. Like, we have menstrual cycles that show us our body is not designed that way. And the world that we're currently living in is very much in a masculine dynamic where it's designed for men. And we are slowly starting to shift that paradigm, which I'm so excited about. And it's conversations like this that you and I are having right now. And then hopefully, you're going to share these conversations with your beautiful sisters as well. And we can continue to spread the word to really get women to actually start operating from their feminine and still being able to grow successful businesses, or choose a career path that is in alignment with them too. It's not about just being the feminine that sits back and doesn't work. If that's what you want to do, amazing. But my bet is that if you're here listening to this episode, that you're not that woman. You are a woman who does have big dreams. You're a woman who wants to achieve a really big fucking life and wants to make a big impact in this world. And so I want you to also have that, but we have to make sure that you are operating from the right place and being able to really understand how to show up as your best self as well. And so let's go back to the time where this all happened. So it was before COVID hit. I had just relocated the salon. We had just moved house. Like, there was so much happening. I was probably also going through a rocky period with in my relationship as well. And everything was just taking its toll. And instead of me listening to the signs that my body was giving me, I chose to just keep working and working and working. Sound familiar? It was my happy place. I loved what I did. I loved working with clients. I loved my salon. I loved the team that I had, and it made me feel so good. But like I said before, one of the main reasons that I truly believe that I hit burnout was because of the driving force for me to be successful. And that really stemmed from my childhood and growing up in a very strict religious household and never being, in my eyes, good enough for my parents and always having to high achieve. And the love that I received from my parents was based on how well I did at school. It was, being the A plus student. It was, all of that contributed. That was how I got shown love and affection, was when I was succeeding really well. And so that then played out as my adult career. And then when I chose to leave the religion and the household from some choices that I made, which resulted in being what they call disfellowshipped, essentially kicked out of the church and kicked out of home, then my driving force was, watch me be successful without you. And so I was prepared to get that success title at any cost, even if it was my health. And so as a result of this, because I wasn't listening to my body was slowly starting to shut down. And it had given me multiple signs beforehand. And I'm going to share with you some of those signs that might be present for you, that were very present for me. Not all 5 signs, but these are the top 5 signs to show you that you are in early stages of burnout, or if not very much in burnout. But I really know that I couldn't have got out of burnout without the support. And yes, it did cost me 25,000. That was just for the mentorship. That wasn't including, the multiple blood tests. That wasn't including the several hormone tests that I had to do. That wasn't including the unique special diet that I had to go on, or the specialized exercises, or the multiple supplements that I also had to go on over a 12-month period. And it was hard. It was so hard. I didn't want to do what I had to do to get out of burnout. It went against everything that I had worked for in my career and in my life. And so, being told that it's time to start to slow down, and that I really need to honor and listen to my body, and I really need to be super diligent on my food and my diet, and not busting my guts at the gym because my body is actually asking me to stop. And that was a really hard journey to go on, to come out the other side of that. But I'm so grateful that it did happen to me, because I do know a big part of my mission and my purpose in this world is to share my experiences to help you avoid going through what I went through. And so I am grateful for going through that experience, because I do have quite a big community that, are aspiring to live a really big life like I am. And this is how you're going to get there, by avoiding all of the things that I did early on. And so this particular day, where I remember it so well, I was also working with a mentor as well, a business mentor, business slash spiritual mentor too at that time. And it was fascinating, because at that time I was spending close to 10,000 a month in mentorship. And that was like a 12-month commitment. So that gives you add the maths up there on that. But that's what I needed to do. I needed to be in mentorship for my business, for not only the salon, but also for coaching. I was also tapping into my spirituality side of things as well, and then to get out of burnout. So this particular day, I dropped the kids off at school. So if you're new here, I don't actually have children. I was a stepmom for the best part of 8 years, and it was one of the most challenging roles I have ever taken on. Give me a business to run any day. But it was also the most rewarding experience that I could ever imagine. Those kids have touched my heart and will touch my heart forever. Honestly, they really showed me what life really is about, and they softened my heart in a way that is indescribable. And for them to not be my own flesh and blood, but to feel that connection with them was really special. They made me feel so, so special. But I think that also contributed to adding to my stress of burnout, because I was taking on a role of a mother, I was taking on a role of, a partner, of a business owner, of, there was so much, a friend, there was so much going on in my life at that stage. And so I remember waking up this particular morning and really struggling, like struggling to get out of bed. And I had to drop the kids at school. And I just was like, I can't do this. But I was like, come on, Annie, you've got to do it. Get your butt up, girl. Let's move. So I dragged myself out of bed. I literally threw on some trackies. I didn't do my hair. I literally just didn't do anything. And I hopped in the car and I dropped the kids off at school. And I came home and I sat on the couch and I had a shitload of work that I needed to do for it was my admin day for the salon. So I had a whole heap of stuff that I needed to do. I was also coaching at that time too. So I had like some calls that I had to return. I had some like coaching work that I needed to do. And I just had no fucking energy, like none. My mind was saying, get up and move, bitch. And my body was like, we're not doing this. And I remember just sitting on the couch, and next minute my eyes are closed and I'm asleep. And a couple of hours obviously went by and I woke up and I thought, oh my God, like, oh, it's like 11:30 and I'd like been asleep on the couch for a couple of hours. And I was like, what is going on? And I remember messaging my mentor and saying to her, oh my gosh, like I have so much work to do and I'm so exhausted. I can barely function. I've literally just woken up from a 2-hour nap that I didn't even know I needed. And like, even after this nap, I just can't move forward. Like, I'm just so exhausted. And we had already had conversations about it. And she had already said to me, like, you are very much close to burnout. If you don't start listening to your signs your body's giving you, it's going to start making you listen to those signs. And so when I had reached out to her and said this, she was like, Annie, it's time. Like, your body, you can't keep doing this. Your body is slowly shutting down. And if you're worried about not being motivated to do some work today, then you should be really scared about what's going to keep happening if you keep going down this path. So I would really like to connect you with, this dietitian who is going to specialize in helping you get out of burnout. And I really think that you should make that step to really starting to listen to what your body's telling you. So she connected me with her and I had a conversation with her on the phone, and she asked me a series of questions around my health, around my sleep, around my focus, around my clarity, around all of these things. And I literally could not answer, that I was exceeding or doing well in any of the areas. And, it was just one of those things where I was like, I have to do this. She told me the investment and it was like nearly 2,500. I think it was like I can't remember exactly, but it was just over 2,000 a month for me to work with her. And she was going to obviously give me information and support in helping me get out of it and guide me on what my exercise needed to look like, guide me on what my hormones were doing and all of that stuff, and my diet and everything. And so from here, this was where I was like scared to invest. I was already investing nearly $9,000 a month with my business coach. And now I'm about to invest another $2,000. And there definitely was fear that was coming up. But I also knew that I wasn't optimizing myself in my work at the state that I was in. And so I really felt like I had no other choice but to invest to get someone to help me out of this. And could I imagine how much money I could be making if I was actually at my optimal? And so I bit the bullet and went, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's pray and trust that this is going to pay off. And it was one of those things that, was an interesting investment for me because there was no like return on investment as such, in the fact that, investing in a business mentor, you get blueprints, you get frameworks, you get this is how I'm going to show you how to make more money. And so investing in a mentor that specialized in my health, yes, there's a return on investment in the sense of my health becomes better, which then impacts my work, but there is no like physical return on investment, if that makes sense. Because like you're not essentially getting frameworks on like implement this into your business, but you are implementing things into your health, which is going to help you show up in your business. So I definitely had to like work through some of those fears and those stories that were showing up for me, because that was very present for me as well in that moment. And to be investing, like I said, like $10,000 a month was a high amount of money to be investing in mentorship, but I kind of felt like I didn't have any other choice. I was just going to keep going backwards at this stage. So I invested and I learnt so much about my body. I learned so much about my hormones. I learned so much about my cycles. I learned so much about food. I learned what my blood sugars were doing. I learned why I was experiencing, severe migraines a week leading up to my cycle. I learned all about my estrogen levels, like all of this stuff that we are not taught in school or as women. Like I hadn't been taught any of that stuff. And, my mom, I know she obviously couldn't teach me because she didn't get taught it. And that's why I'm so passionate about bringing this type of work into my work with the women that come into my world, because it really is a game changer, actually learning about your cycles and learning about your hormones, because all of these things contribute to burnout. And so the more knowledge that we have, I say all the time, like knowledge is power. So the more knowledge that we have around all of these things, the more we're able to be a little bit more assertive, and we can be proactive rather than reactive to the situation. So I started to learn so much about all of that stuff. And it was actually a stage where I also got off the pill, because I had been on the pill since I was sexually active. And so I was sexually active from the age of 18, right through till I think this was like 2018, when I started working with this mentor. So however old I was at that stage, but it was a long time. And so she was explaining to me how when we're in burnout, like it's really important that we understand what the body is actually trying to do. And when we're on the pill, we are artificially inserting stuff into our body that is not allowing our body to function in its natural way. And so I had to have a really tough conversation with my partner at that time, where I really wanted to get off the pill, but obviously that was our contraceptive protection, and that was all we were using at that stage. And so having to get off the pill, that obviously was going to impact our sex life. We didn't want to have children or anything like that. So that was a really tough conversation that I thought he perhaps might not be so open to, but he was so open to it, which was really beautiful. I think he could see how exhausted I was. And I mean, just my burnout was impacting our sex life anyway, because I was always too tired to want to have sex. So I think he could see like the longer term, result of me actually getting my health back on track. And so thankfully he was really supportive of me getting off the pill. And he was like, at the end of the day, it's your body. Like if that's what you feel like you want to do for a while, then we'll work out other ways to make this work. And, I would never want you to not do what feels good for you. So I made the decision, the conscious choice to get off the pill. And I never really was one that experienced much around my cycles. Like I didn't have any period cramping. I didn't have any like migraines or anything like that. Which is why I could obviously work my ass off, because I was masking all of the symptoms that my body would actually naturally give me when I got my cycle. And so once I started coming off the pill, I started to experience what my body was designed to actually experience, which in fact actually made me slow down, because my body was giving me the signals and the symptoms that I actually was supposed to have in order to maximize my workflow with my flow. And so everything really started to shift, and I really started to understand a lot more around it. And like I said, I teach a lot of this in my Evolve container, the Salon Mastermind, because I really feel like women need to understand all of these things to stop them from going through burnout. So that's like a very like brief rundown of like my journey of going on that journey and getting out of burnout. And it did take me a very long time. And even still to this day, like I have to catch it very quickly. I can catch it quickly now because I've read my body. I know exactly what's happening with my body. I now know my cycles that well that I can literally tell you which egg is dropping from which ovary. That's how well I've been able to like really read my body and understand my body. And I now implement that my cycle into my working month as well. So I know when to be my most productive, and I know when to rest and recharge, because I know the cycles that my body is going to go through, which helps me show up in the best way possible for my clients and for, my business. So I want to go through and share with you 5 signs that might actually show that you are in burnout. So these were some of the things that I experienced. These are the top common 5. These were not all things that I was experiencing, but majority of them I was. So the first one that I want to go through with you is chronic fatigue. So when we have a disruption of a hormone imbalance, this is when you perhaps aren't getting enough sleep. Your body is going to produce cortisol for longer than it's supposed to. And that means that you're producing more energy than is actually needed. And so you're going to find that you're exhausted all of the time. Like no matter how much sleep you get, you wake up and you feel exhausted. You might feel like you need to take a nap through the day. And even if you take that nap through the day, you still feel exhausted. So that was me. I was just constantly tired. And I remember my partner saying to me, because I was always whinging and complaining about how tired I was. And I would always say to him, I feel like you could sleep, all week and still be tired. And I'm like, yeah, I feel the same with that. But, it was hard because the chronic fatigue, I was doing the bare minimum and I was showing up where I needed to, which was mainly my work because that was where I needed to make the money. But then it was impacting my relationship because obviously intimacy is a big part in a relationship. And so I heard a quote, and it was like, if sex is happening in a relationship, it becomes 5% of the relationship. If sex is not happening, it becomes 95% of the relationship. And I somewhat do believe in that as well, because I have experienced that, when our sex life was great, it was never really an issue. But as soon as I started to become really tired and super exhausted, our sex life obviously dropped right down, which then was impacting our relationship. Because from a man's perspective, like they need to have sex based on completely different things that a woman needs to. And so there's lots of things that actually, get factored into the intimacy between a couple. So chronic fatigue is one of them. The other one that is also really big is fertility issues. So studies have shown that stress hormones such as cortisol disrupt the signaling between the brain and the ovaries, which can actually trip up ovulation. Therefore, it impacts fertility. And so I have lots of women come into my world where they're like, I'm trying for a baby and we've been trying for a long time and we can't, it just doesn't seem to be happening. We've done all of the tests, like everything is like, looks according to, science, everything looks okay, but I'm struggling to fall pregnant. And so we then look at like, well, what is the stress levels that you've actually got going on in your life? What's happening within the business? And as soon as we start to rein in the reins on the business and we start to create stress-free environment around money, around teams, around being able to step off the floor, because I think this is also another factor of stress that comes into it is, yes, they want to have a baby, but they're worried that if they fall pregnant, like what happens if they're sick? and then what happens with the business side of things from there? And then what happens when they take time off to have the baby? Are they going to have a business? And so the stress that actually comes before even falling pregnant within their business can actually stop them from falling pregnant. And so this is why it's really important. I truly believe that you can have a business and you can have a family. You just need to make sure that you've got all of the solid foundations in place that are going to support you so that you don't feel stressed. You can't, a baby, if we look at it from an energetic point of view, a baby is not going to come into your womb space. A spirit baby is not going to come into your womb space when you're feeling stressed. Yeah, it's going to come in when it feels like it's a safe time for it to come in. And so not only is there the science aspect of like the fertility issues, but there's also the energetic side of things as well. And so really making sure that those solid foundations are in place and that your stress levels can support yourself in a way that feels good for you is going to be really, really important if you're wanting to start a family or maybe add to your family as well. So if you are someone that is feeling like, you're struggling to fall pregnant, obviously use this as a guide, I suppose, to check in with yourself and be like, what is my stress levels like right now? Perhaps there is some other underlying things that might need to be looked at. Another thing is that it can impact your flow. So like I was just sharing with you before, when it comes to your cycles, so our body's stress hormone cortisol has the ability to suppress the reproductive hormones. And so when levels of estrogen and progesterone are abnormal, that means that your menstrual cycle is going to have irregularities. And that could be something that is potentially a reoccurrence that keeps happening. And so when I was on the pill, and see, like, this is like, nobody talks about this stuff. No one shared this stuff with me. And it wasn't until I got off the pill and started to like understand more about our cycles and understand what is actually a healthy period, I was like, oh my gosh, like I've literally been having periods like this my entire life. So my cycles were always very consistent. I definitely was on anywhere between a 24 to 28-day cycle, but the color of my blood was very, very dark, like almost brown. And it was also very like clotty as well. And I just assumed that that was normal because nobody talks about stuff like that. And my mum didn't share with me any information because she probably didn't know. She was doing the best she could at that time. And it wasn't until I started working with this burnout coach that, we were talking about my cycles and she was asking me, detailed questions about like what is happening with the blood, like what does it look like? How heavy is my flow? Like all of those things were contributing to signs of burnout. And once I understood this, I was like, oh my gosh. And so that's when I really started to focus on, because those things are not normal. Having like clotting throughout your entire like cycle, you're not supposed to have that. You're not supposed to have, dark color. That means old blood that is stagnant, that's stuck, that hasn't been able to pass through. And so now, learning all of this information, I can now support myself with my womb. And I do a lot of womb work. So I do a lot of yoni steaming to really support the insides of my wall spaces. I also do a lot of yoni crystal cleansing as well to really support it. And I'm also very, very particular. And if you've listened to previous episodes, I'm very particular in who I let come into that space as well, because my womb is such a sacred space. And I work very hard on cleansing it and making sure that, it supports me, because my womb is my creativity. And so that's where a lot of my work gets birthed out of that space. When I connect with my womb, I have a lot of beautiful content come through. And so making sure that that space stays really sacred is really important to me. And now if I do have a cycle where, perhaps it is a little bit clotty or perhaps it's a little bit darker, I can reflect back on the month that's been and ask myself, like, how much have I actually supported myself? what sort of stress have I been under in this last month? Because our bodies are so wise and they're constantly giving us signals and information all of the time. It's just a matter of us actually listening and collecting this data and being able to really work with everything that our body is giving us. So perhaps you can use this as a time right now to reflect. And I wasn't even tracking my cycles or anything like that. I couldn't even tell you when my ovulation was. I couldn't tell you. I didn't even know there was 4 stages to a monthly cycle. I was so naive to all of this stuff. And so really learning to understand each of the cycles and understanding, exactly what's going on. So I really do encourage you to start tracking your cycles, to start listening to what your body is trying to share with you. And if your cycles are irregular, uh, maybe use this as an opportunity to get some help and actually figure out what might be happening on a deeper level for you, because that is a clear indication that perhaps you are close if not in burnout. So weight gain is another one. So chronic stress triggers the release of the hormone cortisol, which can actually cause the body to store fat cells, particularly for women in the abdominal area. So I know at this stage, I was also like hitting the gym at 6 a.m. I was eating what I thought was really, really well. I was, using the sauna daily, but I just found that it didn't matter what I did, I wasn't able to drop the weight. And so once I learned that this extensive stress that my body was under from being under burnout, it actually does mean that we gain weight. And I was like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. And so a lot of women will come to me in my community and they will say to me, like, I'd really love to drop some weight. And I'm like, okay, great, cool. Let's have a look at like what your life looks like. And, often women are doing all of the things that they need to do according to society in order to lose weight. But sometimes there's something a little deeper that is going on. And not only is it, the cortisol levels and the hormone levels that are happening, but it's also from an energetic point of view too. And so what I've come to learn and what I know to be true is that for women, a lot of our trauma and a lot of our wounds we actually hold in our lower abdomen area. So most women will carry weight around their lower stomach, maybe even into their hip area. And so this is where we store all of our wounds and our triggers and our traumas. And so when you start to energetically start unpacking all of that stuff, you watch the weight just drop off. Like, I see it happen so much. I've experienced it myself where, I've done a lot of inner healing work and it started to really drop the weight off me. And people are like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm literally just like doing inner healing work. That's what I'm doing. Like, haven't changed my diet, not hitting the gym. Like, I'm literally just going for a walk every single day. And it's the energetic release as well that also comes from it. So I think that there's 2 parts to weight gain. I think, yes, there's the chronic stress that happens, but I also think that there is the energetic weight gain as well from like holding on to all of that shame, that fear, all of those things that come with that. All right. The other one is unexplained physical aches and pains. So when you're under stress, your muscles will automatically tense up to guard the body against pain and injury. So chronic stress causes the body to stay in that stressed out state and it will hold on to that tension and it has to be released somewhere. So if you're currently feeling like, I don't know, maybe you've got shoulder pain, maybe you've got lower back pain, maybe you've got knee pain, maybe there's some kind of pain in your body, know that these are signs. Your body is giving you all of the signs right now. Your body is telling you, hey, something's not right. Something is out of alignment right now. I need you to pause. I need you to reevaluate the current life that you're living. I need you to reevaluate the workload that you've got on right now. I need you to reevaluate the boundaries that you might need to set, because our body is so wise. If you haven't read the book Heal Your Life by Louise Hay, highly recommend that book. Oh my gosh, it's a game changer. And it will show you the symptoms that are showing up in your body. It will show you what the underlying issue actually is and the thought process that you have associated with it as well. So just know that your body is giving you all of these signs, but you're probably using them and avoiding them like I was, which is okay. But you've been doing the best that you could up until now. But now that you've got this information, there's no excuses. You can change it now, however you need. So they're just the main top 5 uh, causes that, might be, or signs that might be showing you that you are in burnout. And it really does have to be taken so seriously, because this impacts many areas of our life, not just these 5 symptoms. It's going to filter into many other areas. So now I want to give you some ways to help you lower your stress levels, to just start using these as signs to start making small changes. Because even if you're just experiencing one of those symptoms, use this as information that your body's given you to start to change something. So these are my top tips. Just there's so many that I could honestly give you, but these are just some of my suggestions that I want to share with you. Okay. So the first one is to make sure that you have guilt-free downtime. So really make sure that you allow yourself to rest and stop. So this happens in my community all the time. So I say to the women, like, have some rest time. And I talk about owning your choices. And so this came from a previous mentor that I've worked with as well, where if you're going to take some time to chill and watch Netflix, own that choice. Yeah. Don't chill and watch Netflix and feel guilty about the whole episode of you watching it and being like, oh, I shouldn't be watching this. I should be doing the washing, or, oh, I should be doing this, or I shouldn't be doing this. Like, own the choice, because you might as well get up and do the fucking washing. Honestly, you're not actually allowing yourself to rest at all. So make a conscious choice when you are having your downtime, and let it be guilt-free. Babe, you work hard. You deserve to have a break, okay? Trust me, it's going to be a game changer when you allow that. So just really allow that to sink in and own that choice. Own that choice. If you're going to sit down and watch Netflix, amazing. Sit down and watch it and do it guilt-free. If you're going to sit down, watch Netflix and eat a bag of chocolate and make a block of chocolate, eat it, amazing, own the choice. Don't let the choice own you, okay? The next one that I want to give you is to make sure that your diet is actually supporting you to its optimal state. So cut out the sugar, cut out the fatty foods, stop buying the takeaway that's not actually supporting your body. Your body is a beautiful vessel. It shows up every fucking day for you. How are you showing up for it? Yeah. How are you showing up for it? What food are you putting in? What water are you giving it? Have you got beautiful filtered water that you're putting into your body? Like, what is the food? Are you giving it nutrients? Are you really supporting your body so that your brain, your heart, your blood, everything flows at its optimal? So double check what your diet is and let it support you. The other one is to move your body. Now, I don't mean move your body in a slogging it at the gym way. I mean in a way that feels good for you. If you're not a gym person, don't go to the gym, because the energy behind that is not going to be lasting. So find a way that feels good for you. For me, dancing is huge. Huge. If you're new to me, you will see dancing is huge. If you're an OG, you'll know that dancing is a huge part of my life. I am always dancing. It feels good. It lights me up. It brings so much joy in my life, and I can have an absolute sweat session from dancing. I love dancing. I also love going for my walks as well. And there is times where maybe I do feel like hitting the gym and hitting some weights. Maybe I want to do some yoga or some Pilates or maybe some yin yoga. I just tune into my body and I ask myself, what does it need? But moving my body is non-negotiable, and it should be non-negotiable for you too. But just really allow yourself to do something that feels good for you, regardless of what anybody else says. What feels good for you, and find that. The other one that I want to give to you is making sure that you have a really good nighttime routine. So making sure that your screen time is off, a couple of hours before bed, and you're really like allowing yourself, maybe you need to read, maybe you need to have a nice hot bath. Really make sure that your nighttime is switching off to allow you to have a really good sleep. Sleep is so important, and it's important that you are supporting yourself in a way that allows you to have a beautiful sleep as well. So some of the things that I do is have a bath. I have a sauna in my apartment, so sometimes I'll have a sauna before bed, a beautiful hot shower. I have like a body brush, so I might do a body brush before bed. All of those self-care things that you would love to do. Replace your nighttime TV screen with like actually looking after yourself. Do something for you. I have an LED face mask, so sometimes I'll do a facial and put a face mask on. Just do something that feels really supportive for yourself at night. And then the other one that is an absolute game changer that I've had in my world now for quite a few years, fully embodied in this, and that is meditation and journaling. It is going to help you relieve the stress. It's going to help you get all of that mess that's happening in your head out onto pen and paper. There's been scientific evidence proved that people's stress levels have released because they get it from pen to paper. It means the brain no longer has to remember all of the stuff. And it means that it knows that there's a neuro pathway that goes from the brain down to the hand when you're writing stuff out. And it means the brain can understand that it no longer has to hold on to that information anymore because you've written it down. So whether your journaling is just your to-do list for the next day, or maybe your journaling is to write out things that you're grateful for, maybe your journaling is to just brain dump out how the day was and how you want the next day to be. Whatever it is, feel in and do what feels good for you. But adding meditation into that is really going to help you slow that mind down. We don't need to stop the thoughts. I think this is a misconception that a lot of people have when it comes to meditating, is like, I can't stop my thoughts. The idea is not to stop the thoughts. The idea is to actually allow those thoughts to come and go without judgment. It's just to observe and let them flow. And just the more that you keep practicing meditating, the more you're going to be able to drop in and there's going to be stillness. But it's like going to the gym. You have to continually work that muscle if you want that muscle to grow. Your intuition and your meditation practices is just exactly the same. You have to continue it in order for you to be able to get better at it. It's a devotion, it's a practice. So they are my top few tips that I suggest for you to really avoid going through burnout. And if you are interested in delving more into these topics that I've talked about, if you're a salon owner, this is the type of work that we do in the Evolve Salon Mastermind. So you will see in the show notes, there is an application for 2024 round to kick off. If that feels good for you, go and apply and get your name on the wait list. If you are a non-salon owner but would love to delve into more of this work, then I do encourage you to DM me on Instagram or Facebook, the According to Annie, and see what I might have opened for you at the moment. I do run often different containers for different types of things, so it just depends whether I have something open or not at this point in time. But I hope that this has supported you, and I hope that you have used this episode to really reevaluate where you're at right now, because you don't have to be working this hard. You're doing it because you feel like you have to. And here's your permission to, this coming weekend, relax, chill, reset, recharge, watch some Netflix guilt-free, and let your body rest. All right, babe. Until next time, talk to you soon. Bye.